Ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Hey, man, you ever been around one of those engaged dudes that kind of sees the last few months, after he gets engaged, last few months, right before his wedding, he kind of sees that as an opportunity to have just a little bit too much fun. Nothing too harmful, maybe just a little too flirtatious with the bartender, or maybe a little too flirty with that group of girls y'all seem to have bumped into on your bachelor or bachelorette trip or whatever. You know what I mean? You ever met this guy? Yeah, me neither. I don't know any of them. Never met one of them in my entire life. But there is this natural phenomenon, right, of having kind of your last go at things, right? Your last kind of free moment before you're married and you're locked down for the rest of the time. Okay, I'm here to tell you tonight there are a few recruitments right now in college football going on a little bit like this. You know what I mean? Going on a little bit like, hey, that guy's kind of engaged. You know what I mean? That guy's definitely engaged. But he's definitely been a little too flirtatious, right? Players that got engaged in the last couple of weeks, because if you don't notice by now in recruiting is happening a lot earlier, okay? And timelines are happening a lot earlier, meaning commitments are happening a lot earlier. Silent commitments in particular are happening a lot earlier. In the summer nowadays, guys are trying to get this out of the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, judge and jury, people of the audience, okay? When you take a look on the interwebs today, and you start seeing magical quotes about how Daniel Calhoun left his Georgia or his Alabama visit, and suddenly, hey, they're the new leader. When you hear quotes like these, don't think the bartender thinks you're pretty, Bama. They're just being nice. You know what I mean? Look at history. Look at the history of things like this. Daniel Calhoun in particular. Let's talk about him. Just him. Okay? He goes on this nice official visit to the University of Georgia, and then he goes off and he goes and has a good time with this new pretty girl in Alabama after a good weekend with a nice pretty girl in Georgia. Okay? I'm not, without spoiling anything, let's talk about the history, okay, and the odds of what is happening right here and just the recruitment that is Daniel Calhoun. What does the history say about in-state 5-stars? And I am counting Daniel Calhoun as a 5-star. I know what the rankings say. I'm telling you what I think of a 5-star in regards to where he sits on Georgia's board, how quality of a football player he actually is, and what the necessary requirements are to land that player and the demands to land that player. When it comes to the demands and the expectations to land, Daniel Calhoun, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of a 5-star. Georgia cannot afford to lose this football player. They've spent way too much time and way too much resources on landing this football player. They don't. It is not necessarily a colossal failure, but it is a failure, okay? So let's look at what history tells us about these football players, these offensive tackles / offensive linemen that are must-have. If you don't lose or if you don't land, you will be in serious hot water. Stacey Searles or Matt Luke or Sam Pittman or whoever it is. Let's talk about it. Let's list these guys out because I got a list of them. There is one of these from the state of Georgia almost every year, except we've taken a 2-year hiatus of such football players. Okay, in 2025, it's clear as day. It's Juan Gaston. If Stacey Searles doesn't land Juan Gaston, he's going to hit himself in the mouth. I promise you right now, Juan Gaston, NFL football player in 2025. They've got to land him. In 2024, Daniel Calhoun have to land him. Have to. Got to get him. Right? 2023, I'm telling you right now, I don't think there was one. In 2022, from the state of Georgia, I do think there was one. You missed on him. His name was Elijah Pritchett. You would have landed on him had you not offered after Alabama. That's a whole nother story, basically. You got the drop on him because he's from Carver, Columbus. Georgia went and looked at him, said, I don't know. Well, wait, coach, it's really, really early. The next day, Alabama offered him. Guess where he ended up going? Alabama, right? Sometimes you miss on these things because it happens really, really early. The Pritchett sweepstakes was done for the University of Georgia way early in that commitment. in that recruitment. So 2022, you missed. It's the only one in the history of these that I'm going to run off that you can say you missed on. 2021, that's the Amarius Mims class. I think it's the last true, bona fide, guaranteed dude from the state of Georgia going to go to the NFL. You land him. Broderick Jones in 2020, the year before that. You land him. Okay? 2019, there's this guy named Wanye Morris. You wanted nothing to do with him. You hardly recruited him. You definitely didn't get involved with some of the things that it was required to land him. He spent about 5-6 years in college football. He might be on an NFL roster today. You passed, and it looks like it was smart to have passed on an in-state 5-star. It's not something you do very often, but you absolutely selectively missed on that football player there, per my sourcing. Okay, and in 2018, Jamari Sawyer, 2017, Andrew Thomas. You know how the history goes with those football players. So what's that? Since 2017, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, we're going to miss on 22, 23, nobody there, 24, and 25. That's 9 or 10 years. 9 out of 10 years, you've been either in the spot to sign the football player of your choice, or you didn't want him. So you want Daniel Calhoun. You want him bad, like really, really bad. So what does history tell me about Daniel Calhoun? History tells me that when he goes to Alabama on an official visit, after having a great weekend with the actual what history says he's going to do, I wouldn't read too much into the quotes. You know what I mean? Just don't read too much into it. I will tell you what to read into right now. And it's that boy Unc coming in hot right here. Unc says 10 free subs. So if you don't know around here, we do have super subs, right? Guys that pay to comment, good stuff like that, contribute to the show. How this works is every super sub worth $10, okay, $10 donation. We have a $10 subscription over on patreon.com. That's a free sub. So here comes Unc with we call him Unc. His name's Jamie Goodman. Here comes Uncle right here with a $100 donation. We have 10 free subs. So if you want these 10 free subs, there's an easy way to do this. Tag me on Twitter right now at BrooksAustinBA. Claim that free sub. I'm going to be putting out a tweet after this. I guarantee you they will not be available anyways. So if I'm not on alerts, I need to be on alerts. Put me on alerts over there on Twitter. If you can't find my Twitter, if you can't DM me or anything like that, Patreon or Instagram's the same thing. If you're wondering where the subs, I'm already subbed on YouTube. What is he talking about? Sub patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Trust me, we're going to do enough plugging of that tonight because we got some great stuff for you guys as well. Let's get rid of that. Thank you, Unc. I appreciate the donations as you would imagine. Hey, we've got a loaded show for you guys tonight. Off the top ropes, settling all of your fears right there with Daniel Calhoun. I think the same kind of does this team have momentum now? Type of talks will happen with KJ Bolden. It's just the nature of this business. People need stuff to talk about, says the guy who has to do 3 hours of TV and simulcast every single week. We got to have stuff to talk about. What we don't do here is sell you not necessarily false information, but if a kid tells us yada, 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 and we know yada, yada, yada ain't true, then I'm not coming to airways with yada, yada, yada. That's not what we do here. In fact, it's the antithesis of what we do here. Okay? Got a great show for you guys. Stetson Bennett caught an absolute body on the timeline today. Going to talk about that. Or not today, last night, late last night, day before last night. I don't know. Caught an absolute body. We're going to recap the recruiting weekend as well. And we're going to grind a little tape. I don't know if y'all know, but Georgia flipped a commitment from Florida. We're going to take a look at his tape tonight. Has somebody in the Discord talking hella reckless about Chauncey Bowens. We're going to clear the air on Quadzilla today because boy got tree trunks for quads, dog. Tree trunks for quads. We're going to talk about the 10-8 running son of a gun a little bit later. But before we get into the show, I want to give a quick shout out to my guy, Cade Graham. He's a 3-month-old absolute warrior and avid fan of the dogs and the program. Cade was born with what is called a congenital heart defect and just wrapped up his second open heart surgery. So to Cade and to Cade's family, man, keep kicking ass. You're the man, bro. Absolutely the man. Yeah, so how to get through that. Here we go. I'm a big proponent, a really, really big proponent of finding out the why. Okay. Finding out the why in myself. Why am I the way that I am? Why do I think that way? Why did I respond to that situation this way? Why? Big proponent of figuring out the why. If you are not figuring out the why, you won't understand the outcomes of things in life. That's what I truly believe. So when I see Stetson Bennett absolutely murder someone or try to on the timeline, the first thing I got to know is why. Because Stetson Bennett don't talk a whole lot on social media, guys. He don't talk a whole lot, and he's not really active. And in fact, he wasn't really active at all on social media before before like, I'm about to say about 4 months ago. I've had him on alerts forever, never tweeted, ever. Now all of a sudden, at like 11:55, he's 50 cal dome capping folks on the Twitter timeline. I'm like, why? So, in case you didn't see it, let's talk about it. Okay, Stetson Bennett had some words for the director of the Senior Bowl. I think that's his title, Jim Nagy. But before we give you the what, right, we're going to explain the why. I'm going to go ahead and tell you why Jim Nagy caught some strays from Stetson Bennett the other night. And it's pretty obvious if you know anything about the history of these two. It's important to note, like I said, that they do have history. Okay, you might remember Nagy made some rather, I'm going to call them out of pocket. I think these comments that I'm going to read to you are rather out of pocket with regards to Stetson Bennett after he turned down the Senior Bowl. For those who don't know, Stetson Bennett they sent out invites to the Senior Bowl in like October and November. From the people that I talked to, Stetson Bennett was not in the mix, if you will, to be up there or down there rather in Mobile. Rather, he was a late addition. He was a late request. He was a, hey, would you want to come? Not, hey, we'd love to have you. Hey, would you like to come? And it was, no, we're good. No, thank you. Okay. And as soon as he didn't accept the last minute invitation to the Senior Bowl, ESPN's got it on daggum A block on First Take, it seems like, of Jim Nagy giving, like I said, a little bit loose cannon fire towards Stetson Bennett. Read these comments and you tell me the tone of these comments from, again, the director of the event. This is the guy who hands out the invitations, and this is the guy responsible for the product that is provided to the TV networks. Okay, these were his quotes when it came out that Stetson Bennett had declined his late invitation to the Senior Bowl. Quote, the only quarterbacks in the last 5 years since I've been here that haven't gone that we haven't gotten in the past were Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. Those guys were, quote, the presumptive number one overall picks. We called around before we started to reach out to Stetson's people, and he was a 6th or 7th round pick, quote, which is a lot better than he was going to into the year as a priority free agent. So here we go. In conclusion of that quote, Jim Nagy, director of the Senior Bowl, gets everybody to play in his event that is draft eligible. Absolutely everybody, except for guaranteed number one picks. Okay, Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. How dare the 6th or 7th round or worse free agent quarterback turn down my invite to my event? That's what it sounds like to me. That's the way I read it. I got it in big bold letters here, but if you read the quotes like I just did there's some really backhanded compliments, backhanded tone in the whole quote. How dare he turn down our event when he's a 6th round draft pick, or worse, a 7th round draft pick, or worse, a free agent? Well, again, for those of you who don't know, after these comments, Stetson Bennett goes on to skip the Senior Bowl, turn down the invitation, and better yet, go get a public intoxication arrest in Dallas-Fort Worth. That's what he does instead of going to Jim Nagy's Senior Bowl. And what happens? Surely his draft status is absolutely abysmal and in shambles, correct? Wrong. The 4th round draft pick. The 4th round draft pick, high 4th round draft pick, almost late 3rd. That's where Stetson Bennett gets drafted. So these guys got a history of this dude, extending a late invite, okay? Stetson says no. He goes on ESPN, talk about homeboys a 6th round pick. How dare he turn down my invite? I'm drafted in the 4th round. What you got to say about that? Right? What you got to say about that? This is a prime example of the ugly girl that ain't ugly no more, right? This is the party host saying that the girl was ugly anyways after she told him she didn't want to come to the party. That's what that was. Oh, you ugly anyways. I ain't even mad about it. I ain't even mad. You ugly. Then the ugly girl goes on to be really, really hot. Really, really hot. 4th round draft pick hot. All right. So, again, man, this is this is a prime example of a group of individuals that has a history, like I was telling you. And that ugly girl ain't ugly no more. I don't think Stetson Bennett has time for anybody like this. He doesn't have time for people that are constantly, out here taking shots, right? And some of the people, and to get to the actual why, or to actual what, we just explained the why he went absolutely berserk on Jim Nagy. Jim Nagy and him got history. He don't like that guy. All right, that's clear there. But why are we talking about this? What actually happened other than Stetson Bennett catching a body? Brooks, you didn't do a very good job there explaining what happened. As some of you might know, there's this young man named Baby Gronk that for some reason is in the news, and everybody has formulated an opinion on him. And don't worry, we will get my opinion on the father and this deal with the Baby Gronk kid. If you haven't heard about it, we'll talk about it here in a second. Not what we're here to talk about right now. But this Baby Gronk topic espoused an opinion from Jim Nagy. And Jim Nagy basically tweeted out a parable about how the NFL is a quote, genetics league. And he basically spent about a 300-word, paragraph, a couple paragraphs, explaining how if God touches you and gives you very, very physically gifted traits, you're going to make it to the NFL no matter what. He didn't say that precisely, but hey, the NFL is a genetics league. Okay. And then goes on to say you shouldn't be grooming your kids because the NFL, we don't need to teach you football. If you're big, fast, and physical, we'll teach you how to play football. You don't have to have played it for years and years and years. Again, saying, quote, it rarely matters when you start grooming your kids. And to some extent, I do believe this to be true. I do believe that if you are a 6'5", 270-pound former power forward that came out to the football field and wants to play left tackle, I do believe I will make you better than the 6 foot, 295-pound fire hydrant playing left tackle. Yes, I am in agreement there. But you could imagine how those types of comments, the types of, hey, all you got to do is win the genetic lottery type of comments from a guy like Jim Nagy, who, again, they have history with, you can understand how that would come across not well with a guy like Stetson, right? This is a guy that's kind of defied all of those. You got to be bigger, faster, stronger odds the whole time. And again, let me tell you what, Stetson must have been just waiting, because he unloaded absolute clips on the timeline today. Stet quote tweeted Jim Nagy's, again, parable about, this BYU football player who goes on to be the 5th overall pick. I think his name's Ziggy Ansah, if my memory serves me. But Stetson goes on to quote it and says, quote, rarely matters when you start grooming your kids. Thank you for the overarching parental advice, Jim. Love when you slide in just calling somebody by their first name. Thank you for the overarching parental advice, Jim. Perhaps parents with dreams for their kids or kids with dreams in general should only listen to you, Master King of Talent Evaluation. LOL, a scout who saw an opportunity. I think it's pretty clear where I stand on this side of this little kerfuffle. And the reason being, I have a slight personal history with Mr. Nagy. I will tell you this. I've met a lot of them. I talked to very few of them. Despite the fact of having met a lot of them, Jim Nagy is no longer an NFL scout. He is the Senior Bowl scout. But prior to being the Senior Bowl director, he was an NFL scout. And I have never met a worse group of human beings in my life when it comes to dealing with other people and being nice to other people and being genuine to other people than NFL scouts. NFL scouts live in an environment where they have to stand on their opinion and they can't get off of it, or else they're considered weak, or worse, their position is considered weak. So when they're in boardrooms, they're the most right human being on the planet. And this idea, this concept of I'm the most right human being on the planet rolls over into how they deal with people. I'm going to tell you that right now. It definitely rolls in. It rolled into that quote from Jim Nagy. How dare him turn down my event? My event discovers people. My event puts quarterbacks in the league. Ain't nobody turned down my event except for number 1 overall picks, right? It's that mentality. I've never met a more stuck-up group of people in the world. Not happening. Not in my line of work. Hasn't happened. So I'm walking around Georgia. I think they were playing Missouri. Was it Georgia, Missouri? I got it written down here in the notes. I know exactly where it was. Here we go. Yeah, it was Missouri. Missouri, 2019. I'm standing in the end zone, home game. And here comes this dude bebopping up in his Senior Bowl shirt. And I didn't know him from Adam. I could not recognize his face, did not know who he was. But by God, I went and found him after this interaction. I tend to do that. I'm looking at you. We'll call you the defensive side of the ball coach for Tennessee. Every time I see that guy, forget his name, and I'm like, I'm not talking to him because I know exactly how that's going to go. That guy's an asshole. That guy's a straight-up asshole. Not going over there. Not talking to him. Won't do it. So buddy walks up to me, bebopping up. Don't know who he is. And I'm like, he's clearly watching Brian Herrien. At that point, Brian Herrien's a fourth-year senior, okay? He's gotten play the whole time. Brian Herrien goes on to flame out in the NFL. It's not the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion and the point of what I'm telling you is Mr. Nagy walks over, puts his phone up, and I start casual conversation. Hey, man, that'd be worth an invite right there. That's a 4-year, contributing player in the SEC. He'd look great at the Senior Bowl. And his response, he turns around and looks at me with a very derogatory face or look on his face and tone and says, we'll see about that. We will see about that. He didn't invite him. He flamed out in the NFL. Not the point. The point is just be decent. Just be decent to people. Just be decent to people. That's all I got. Just be decent. Which brings me to this point. Like and subscribe. Do all that good stuff. I haven't told you at all tonight. Hit that thumbs up button. We're 21 minutes in. I've just been going and going and going and going and going. Hit that like button. Shouts out K. This baby Gronk shit gives me an opportunity to address something. And I want this camera angle. And I want to be, because I haven't talked about this. And I haven't talked about this at all, but we're gonna address it right now. Understand something. As long as the internet exists, there will be a portion of people on the internet gaining attention, okay, gaining notoriety, and gaining clicks off of triggering your impulses, okay? Trying to give you feelings and impulses that you do not want, right? That you do not have and that you simply should ignore, but you can't. A lot of these are fits of anger. A lot of these feelings are fits of rage. And the first thing you want to do is you just want to click on it. You want to read it. And then you want to go to the comments. You want to, I hate you so much. And you want to do that in the comments and do it. And then you want to quote tweet it and say, hey, friends, look at this. We should all gang up on this person. Okay? It's no different right now. Okay? You should not provide platforms or attention to any of these people at all. You shouldn't. Do not give it to them, right? So we shouldn't provide platforms like The Athletic to give to a dad who is very clearly manipulating his son for financial gain, or that's what it appears like on the surface. We got a dad kind of whoring out, if you will, for lack of a better term, a 10-year-old for social media influence and followers and whatever money he can drum up out of that. And yeah, he claims to be putting it into his son's bank account, but nonetheless, we should not be giving people platforms that we do not condone. All right? It's no different. It's no different than what's going on right now in this media space, in this UGA media space. Okay? There is a company that is very clearly made their entire content strategy at the moment about writing as much scandalous stuff as they humanly possibly can in hopes that you hate read their stuff. Here's an idea. Just don't read it. Don't quote tweet it. Don't interact with it. Don't engage with it. Just ignore it. Mute him, block him, unfollow him, do all the good stuff. You don't ever have to pay attention to it. Stop hate reading shit. It's not doing you any good. Don't click on it. That's what they want you to do. It is clearly a business model. Just like clearly the business model lately with this baby Gronk dipshit or the dipshit's dad is to go out and have everyone talking about him, good, bad, or different. Clearly, there is one business in this space that's entire strategy right now is to write stuff that makes you mad. So stop reading it. The Elite 11's this week. And yes, your boy will be out there. Okay. I don't know how many Georgia folks going out there, but if you're not, what are you doing? I'm outside. Where you at? You know what I mean? Like, where are you at? If you are not going to the Elite 11 this weekend, where are you at? I'm guaranteed my boy Jeff Santel going to be out there. I already know my boy Jeremy Johnson going to be out there. I already know me and my crew going to be out there. So, yeah, we'll be flying off to LA Wednesday morning. I'll be back Sunday evening, basically Monday morning. And I've already previewed this a little bit here with you guys, but there are some things I'm looking forward to. First of all, I'm always looking forward to the character evaluation, finding out who these individuals are. I've talked to both of them, Ryan Puglisi and Dylan Raiola, obviously. Puglisi a lot more in depth than Raiola. We had a 35-minute interview, I believe it was, with Pugga. So we know him really, really well and kind of understand who he is, but I've never felt his presence in person. And if you don't know about the quarterback position, that might sound goofy to you. What do you mean feel his presence? You've never been in a huddle, Bubba. If you're asking that question, that's okay. Let's explain it. And this is a complete sidebar here. It does matter, okay? Football is a position, or a sport rather, that you have to have an innate sense of belief in the guy that walks into the huddle and delivers the play, right? The guy that is ultimately responsible when the ball is snapped for the result of the play. You have to believe in that human being from a fundamental standpoint. If you don't, you will only be as good as his talent is, right? Your ceiling will not. I heard Bill Belichick say this the other day. Your talent sets your floor. Your culture sets your ceiling. So if your quarterback is not someone that people buy into, if he's not a soul and a human that people want to invest their time into and invest their belief into, that's not okay. He probably won't succeed, right? It's why so many of physically gifted football players don't succeed at that position. Just because you can throw it 100 miles an hour and just because you're great doesn't mean you can convince other people of your greatness. This week coming up is something that gives me a deep opportunity to understand that and really get in there. Excited to see both those guys. And, of course, you will hear from both of those guys on this channel as well. Don't know if we're going to be able to do live shows. When I do remote location stuff like this, we don't have a massive team, but I am going to bring the cameras and we're going to bring everything to do it. And if the Wi-Fi holds up, the Wi-Fi holds up. I hope it does. And if it don't, it don't. But it is what it is. Hey, want to take a quick moment and say thank you for being here tonight. If you are not already, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you're commenting in the live chat, do all that good stuff. Hit the thumbs up button and make sure you hit that. I think there's a little bell button. I don't know if it dings when you hit it, but you should try to find out if it does right now. And if you hit that little bell button, that'll let you know when we are live, which is every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 9 p.m. here on the channel. Appreciate you guys for being here. Let's move on. The 2024 class is starting to really fill up, boys and girls. I mean, it's getting thick. Okay, it's getting thick. 18 commitments to date, I believe. And here's a little something. I counted it up today. I know of eight silent commits. Now, there's a difference between, coach, no, seriously, I'm going to be a dog. And, yeah, coach, I'm going to be a dog. You know what I mean? All right, there's two differences there, but there's 8 of those total from my understanding and my sourcing, which begs the question, Brooks, that's 26. How many guys are they going to take in this class? Okay, that's the first question I would think of. And then the second question is, but Brooks, how do I know who those people are? Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. But no, to answer the question of how big are the classes going to be, I think moving forward from now on until we get some type of clarity here, I think you should expect 28 to 30 players in every single class for one reason. There's so much of an influx in the roster between when early enrollees arrive in January and when the roster settles in July. Okay. Now, that's a whole nother portal window. That's a portal window that happens before early National Signing Day as well. So there is basically an influx in roster. You might have 7 going out plus the 28 seniors, right? Now we have 35 spots, but we're not going to take 30 kids. We might take 4 or 5 more transfers. Oh, and we got some redshirt seniors that want to come back. That occupies the spots, right? It is constantly going to be this variance of up and down. And what I think it's going to allow, especially because of the transfer portal at a place like Georgia, where you have 13 guys go out in the spring, but you only really add 2 or 3 via the transfer portal. So the net delta is 10. Okay, I'm not saying you're going to take an additional 10 high school guys, but you definitely have the room to take an additional 3 or 4, right? So classes that used to be 25 and a tight hard cap 25 with maybe a couple gray shirts in has now been able to extend to potentially 29, 30 guys in every single class. So I think that's what you're going to see moving forward. I think that's what you need to pay attention to moving forward. The idea that these high school classes have a potential to get slightly bigger because of the influx on the roster. Again, could you imagine listening to this segment and go, oh, all that's good stuff, but homeboy just talked about 8 silent commits. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. I mean, could you imagine? Wait, if he knows about all these silent commits, yep. You'd feel really, really good if you had a majiggy in your life. You know what I mean? If you was just out here getting majiggy with it, you would know. You would feel like Nostra Majiggimus. You know what I mean? You would feel like Nostra Hemi. You would feel like you could walk into your friend's room that's also a dog fan and be like, I know something you don't know. And he'd be like, how? And you'd be like, Majiggy, baby. And he'd be like, Majiggy? You'd be like, yeah, Majiggy, you're not a dog fan. You're not elite. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Links probably somewhere in the bio. Okay? Maybe not. We put a Majiggy in for Chauncey Bowens before that dude even touched down in Athens this weekend. Before he even touched down. My boy was coming to flip. My boy was already, you know how you do that move with the frying pan. You do that little move to kind of break that thing before you flip that thing. That's what they did before we didn't say, and then it got loose and they said, "Hi y'all." You know what I mean? That's how it was. The drop was in. The thing was the job was done. Don't even know. It's way too much ad lib in here. Way too much caffeine tonight. Is there such thing? I don't know. But yeah, my sources had this one kind of like already done. He just coming to take commitment photos type of deal going into the weekend. So we hit you with that Majiggy Friday morning. And right about now, we're going to hit you with that film. So we have a saying around here. It's called shut up and grind the tape. We're going to do a little bit of it here in just a second. But the first thing I got to do is actually get the clips pulled up. I think they're over here. You know, if you've been watching us the last couple of weeks, we've had some not necessarily technical difficulties, but some of the videos have been lagging on us a little bit. I hope that has been better tonight. You know, this is how I know when shows are good and when shows are bad. When shows are good for a long, extended period of time, I don't hear from you guys. In other words, I don't hear your complaints. I don't hear good or bad. Y'all just be commenting on the topics. Now, whenever I had that Jimbo, you know, intro, I mean, every week I had people bitching in the comments. I don't know if I should bring that back just to have y'all bitching in the comments again, but maybe because it's good for business. So instead of bitching in the comments, say what's up. Say what's up to your boy. Appreciate you. All right, let's shut up. Let's grind the tape. We're going to share some screen. Shouts out to Huddle. Can't see the screen, Brooks. Don't worry. I got you. I'm not that dumb, even though sometimes I am. We got Epic Pen, too, because I'm about to draw this Quadzilla. I had some folks, in the Discord the other day talking about some nonsense. All right. Let me tell you something about the running back position. The running back position in the days of the NIL era of college football, super expensive. Super expensive position. Okay. Georgia doesn't do expensive. We've talked about that on this channel. Georgia, Alabama, despite their recruiting prowess, ain't out here driving 150 on the Autobahn now that speeding's illegal. You know what I'm saying? They're not the ones. They're kind of just cruising like they always been. All right. So that needs to be noted. And for you guys to land 2 running backs in this class and potentially be pursuing a third and having a good shot at that third, patreon.com/Brooks Austin, if you don't know, that says a lot about how you're recruiting this position, how well you're recruiting this position, despite the fact that it is, again, an NIL position. Let's go back to the tape. Okay. All right. First thing you're going to notice from Chauncey, I think he's got elite first step quickness. I think his ability to stick his foot in the ground like he's about to do right now and get immediately north and south and get to a top end speed at 225 pounds, that is his elite trait. Now, a lot of high school football players, okay, like Chauncey are fast enough right here to run this thing straight to the pylon. What I'm always looking for when I watch high school running backs get into the open field is whether or not you actually have open field presence like Chauncey does right here. What he's doing is he's running directly down towards the end line, right? And then feels a guy that's got the angle on him back from his right. So how do we defy a guy who is pursuing an angle on us this way? Okay, a guy that's coming in on us with an angle this way. Well, we veer back out this way because as we move first, he's got to respond, and him banana peeling out now defeats the angle that he originally had. Boom, right there you see Chauncey kind of peel back towards the front pylon, and it gets him in the door. Okay, it's great that I know that you're a 10-8 speed guy. I know you can run. We all know that. We all can look at you and tell that you can run. We can look at the tape and tell that you can run. But do you know how to run once you get in open field? Okay. This tape is great. It becomes phenomenal. Look at him defying angles right there. Okay. Just because the other people on the field are slow does not make you any less fast. I think you people need to understand that. Not you guys here in the comments and in the thread tonight, but general prospect diggers, folks that are out here digging on prospects and trying to find points of concern. Okay. Natural hands away from his body. I'm not going to say, my guy's a major threat out of the backfield, but he is a major athlete out of the backfield, and here it is. Okay. You want to talk about a quad monster. Okay. This dude right here. I saw 10.88 on the track times. That's great. It's one of the first things I do nowadays with skill guys. But when I watched the tape and got 50 seconds in right here and then saw this right here, let me explain something to you, ladies and gentlemen. These are some quads. Look at these puppies. Them some quads. Hey, and what else do we notice, ladies and gentlemen? What else do we notice? I'll wait. Pause for the class. Bow-legged. My boy is 215 pounds, 10-8 running son of a gun, bow-legged. I'm all over it. Like just white on rice. Look at that. Knee outside the toe. If y'all don't know already, I'm going to tell you right now, some of the best running backs in the history of the position, bow-legged individuals. Absolute bow-legged individuals. You don't believe me? Go look at still frames of Herschel Walker. You don't believe me? Go look at still frames of Nick Chubb. You don't believe me? Go look at still frames of Caleb Downs. You don't believe me? Get off the channel. I'm just kidding. Bow-legged athletes are a real thing. They are a real thing. Osmani Kromah in the 2025 class, a real thing. Most bow-legged athlete I've ever evaluated. This video is killing me. I even hardwired the Ethernet cable today. You get the point. My man is thick in them quads. Call him a quadzilla. And he is bow-legged. Saquon Barkley, another bow-legged running back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's important. It's important that you follow people like your boy and make sure you're not being silly and goofy out here on the timeline. Hey, I think we're going to call it a show there. Do we have any topics that we didn't hit and didn't get around to? Let's talk KJ Bolden. Okay. I think KJ Bolden is going to go through a very similar, like I said earlier in the show, he's going to go through a very similar storyline and story arc and people talking about him on other visits this coming week after his official visit at Georgia. Just like we got people asking me about Ellis Robinson because he's down at Miami. Guys, he's having a good time. He's married. And the bartender is flirting with him, and he's just too nice to say no. I know I've never been like this. I know I don't have pretty girls looking at me all the time. That's why when it happened, I made sure to marry her. You know what I'm saying? The first pretty girl that looked at me and was like, with interest, I was like, woo, hey, you know what? But these hot dudes like Ellis Robinson, they ain't got no problem with that. Chick's been whistling at him since he been in a freshman in high school. Thank you, coach. I know I got long arms. Thank you, coach. I enjoyed my official visit to Miami. You know what I'm saying? Homeboy been getting catcalled for a long, long time. Everything's okay. He's a married man. He can be all right. Not saying that KJ Bolden's a married man, but you get it. Love you.